Hello, yes, what time is it? So this one is going to be about, I guess, foreshadowing and in D&D, laying plot threads, when to put, what's the word I want to use? Laying plot threads and hooks and stuff that might not go anywhere, whether because the players don't take it, whether something else happens or the campaign reaches a natural, whether it ends, whether it reaches a natural point or not. So I guess there's going to be spoilers for Critical Role Campaign 1 and for the show Supernatural. So first off, I want to bring up some examples. Critical Role Campaign 1. You may have heard of it. So this wasn't something they discussed really in the campaign or in any of the wrap-ups or anything. I think it's been a while since I watched those, but I heard in like an interview or some blog post or something, I think Matt was talking about how the end of the Chroma Conclave arc was, as far as he had written, mostly. I was like, okay, this is a natural point to end the campaign. This makes sense here. Do you guys want to continue here? Or do you guys want to end here? Is this a natural ending point for your characters? Do you feel like you've explored everything with these characters that you can, more or less? Or do you want to keep going? And as you know, the campaign continued, so all the players decided to continue on with those characters. But if they decided, no, we're done with these guys, let's do a new one, then the Chroma Conclave arc would have been a fairly natural point to end the campaign. The characters would have been heroes and legends. They would have ended like one of the greatest threats to the region that the region had ever seen. So, it all makes sense. Everyone's alive and fairly happy. But instead, they continued on, and the Whispered One came back, and blah, blah, blah. And that's specifically what I want to get at. If the Chroma Conclave arc was the original kind of natural endpoint, not that years in advance Matt had decided, okay, there's going to be dragons, and then as soon as they do that, then the campaign's over. No, it was just, that's a natural endpoint. So the Whispered One, Vecna, that was tied into Percy's backstory with the Briarwoods. And the whole ziggurat, the spinning orb of suck stuff in and teleport to the Shadowfell, those were just essentially background threads and extra things that the players could tug on if they wanted to, and they decided not to. The Whispered One, whether at the time Matt knew it was Vecna, or if it was just a creepy dude, a creepy entity in the background named the Whispered One that Delilah Briarwood got her necromantic magic from. Who knows? Not even sure if Matt remembers at this point, but something like that is a really good kind of potential thread to lay down, whether you revisit it or not. Because I think the main rub of these types of things is you can't be afraid to lay down these plot points, even if the players never explore them or they never get to them. Because there's only so much a player can do in a certain amount of time, and that's also why I'm not a big fan of waiting to introduce things either. Like, for example, in the Site 27 campaign, in the second mission, I was apprehensive about introducing Karcist Welgrin at first. I was like, okay, this is kind of going to be the big bad of the campaign. I've got lots of plans for him. But is it too early to introduce him? This is like the second arc. And I was only apprehensive about it for a short time. It's like, no, let me introduce him early. That way I can do other stuff and come back to him and the players know. Which, you know, the party composition is completely different now. But it is what it is. So, what was I saying? Anyway, so the plot points with the Ziggurat and the Whispered One, those were things just sitting in the background while the players were dealing with the Chroma Conclave, and then they continued the campaign, and they were still just kind of there. Like, they were doing kind of passive research into the Ziggurat and what the hell was going on, but nothing really happened until I think they found an identical Ziggurat somewhere else, and they're like, oh, let's go check it out. And they found fucking Delilah Briarwood alive again. Like, hey, no, bad, why? And that continued on, and that ended up being the whole premise of the last arc of the campaign. The Whispered One is Vecna, keeper of secrets, and blah, 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 and he's going to become a god and all that shit. So, and that's kind of the strength of, like, laying down those kind of plot points and not being afraid if the players don't, if they don't tug on those threads. Whereas, like, I feel like kind of the opposite is what, you know, a lot of people will call, like, Monster of the Week formula, which is something like the show Supernatural frequently deals in, where there's a kind of status quo that might change season to season a little bit, but it's mostly the same. And so if you're not familiar with Supernatural, it was not a sitcom, an urban fantasy drama. Urban meaning it's modern day. It's centered around two brothers, Sam and Dean Winchester. They are monster hunters in the modern day, meaning they hunt werewolves, vampires, cryptids, supernatural garbage. Hunt whatever, you know. And for the most part, the majority of episodes are, hey, we're driving through town. Hey, there's spooky stuff going on. Hey, look, there's a were-hamster. You know, whatever it is. There's tons and tons of different supernatural entities that they deal with. And it's usually like, okay, they do a little investigating. Oh, they find some clues. And then Sam or Dean will figure out, oh, it's this thing. Oh, okay, we need these items to be able to counter it because its weaknesses are, you know, oranges in a sock. Like, that's its weakness. That's how we kill it. So that's usually the kind of formula it goes. And then you've got the more plot-focused episodes where there's, like, recurring enemies, like recurring characters and stuff that's moving the plot forward. At least it largely was in the first 5 seasons. Because the first 5 seasons were run by one showrunner. And it had a continual building plot. Then after that plot was concluded and they eliminated, like, their greatest adversary, and they did all the plot beats, and they brought all the important characters back for, like, a short time, and they did it was great. And then the show went on. And it got weird. Like, not that it got weird, it just got kind of, maybe not contrived. Like, this was maybe the Supernatural's jump the shark moment, where it irrevocably changed. It wasn't the same anymore. It leaned into the Monster of the Week formula a little more. And now the one good thing about the post season 5 era and episodes in Supernatural is that the main actors, the actors for Sam and Dean, kind of knew their characters extremely well, and the characters got even more and more characterization and became like richer and deeper and funnier. So that's one plus of the later episodes. Like, you just kind of start watching it just for the characters instead. I had it on largely in the background for a long time after that. So there's a lot of episodes I have no idea what was happening. But not the point. After that point, each season was kind of its own contained central plot that, as soon as the season was over, was largely irrelevant to the rest of the series moving forward. Like, there was one of the seasons, like, what was it? I forget exactly what was going on in season 6. I really don't remember much at all. I think the main plot was like Sam didn't have a soul, so he's mean. and then that was kind of the central plot, but then they resolved it halfway through, so they're like, what do we do? And then, like, what was it? Then one of the main angel character, Castiel, he like absorbed purgatory to become the new god, like capital G God, become the new ruling entity of the universe. And that was probably a bad idea, because purgatory holds a lot of shit, including eldritch entities called the Leviathans, which then, when he eventually, Castiel popped and everything in purgatory got out for a short time, including Leviathans, and they never went back in, actually. That was a real weird thing, because the Leviathans were these like primordial entities created before any other form of life, I think. And they were just hungry eel monsters. They were effectively unkillable. You could cut off their heads and they would go into a coma, but you couldn't kill them. The only way to kill them is to do like a bunch of complicated nonsense and imbue like a single, like I think a rib bone or something, like some particular object you can imbue with the power to kill one of them one time. And they used that to kill like the Leviathan's leader, and they killed him. And then in killing him, Dean got sucked into purgatory, so he was there for a while. He was there for like a year or something. But as soon as they killed the Leviathan's leader, the Leviathans just kind of went away. They're like, oh no, we don't have a leader, we don't know what to do. And they just fucked off. They're like, there's like thousands of these unkillable eel monsters out in the world, and you never see them. Like, they never show up again, they never do anything. I think maybe one shows up in like season 12 or some bullshit. But, you know, and that's kind of the formula going forward from there. Like, whatever the important like main plot beat is in the show for that season, after that season, they never talk about it again. It's never relevant, it's never important. It's just, oh, this is what's happening, okay, we dealt with it, oh look, a new problem. And that's all it is. And that was pretty disappointing. But to tie it back, I feel like that kind of thing can happen with D&D a lot, where, like, you know, you're dealing with whatever this week's session, like whatever the problem is, or this like short arc, like you're dealing with something for a few sessions, and then after that you kind of never touch it again, you know. This isn't necessarily something that's happened in my campaigns or the campaigns I've played in, but from like stories and the way other people talk about it, I feel like that is something that people can fall into. Because I definitely feel that, like, in how I design stuff. It's like you're just kind of writing stuff to use that session and then forget about it. Like, I wrote, like, last week we had an encounter with, or last session, Site 27, we had an encounter with SCP-939s, the red cave-dwelling predator things. And I don't know if we'll ever touch those again. I don't know if they'll ever be important. But that's more of a, if there's a place where they make sense in the narrative, then yeah, I'll put them there. Or I'll find them there because of blah 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 creative process, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, like I don't know if and when we'll see those again. But the experience with those will probably be useful because one, all the players now guaranteed have an immunity to the amnestic gas that those things produce. So if those things are somewhere that the players run into, they will be more well equipped to deal with them. And theoretically, by then they'll be higher level and more powerful. Blah blah blah. So there'll be a minor nuisance, and they'll be able to see how they've grown. But yeah, that was kind of a largely what I wanted to discuss. But maybe some more examples real quick because I've got like 2 minutes. A plot point that I laid down in the first session for Site 27 was there was a character named Burke who was a former SCP agent. He stole an object. It was 417. I think that's the number. He stole an object, and the party pursued him into Unlondon. He stole it, and I don't know if the party really got too much information from it, but spoilers, he was going to sell it. I'm not going to say to who, but I have that character all written out, and they'll see that character if we ever get to that ballroom dinner auction type of mission, where the party has to go to a ballroom dance and dinner, and there's an auction afterwards, and that'll largely be the plot for that mission. But that character will probably show up there. But they ended up not needing to, not running into that character, not digging too far into it, I guess. Well, I left it pretty vague, like there was a contact in Burke's phone, and that was kind of it. Because that character covers their tracks. But that's a plot point that I just laid some information for, and that was kind of it. They'll find out eventually. You can't be afraid of those kind of plot points. And then I had some plot points that was effectively going to be the next mission, but then the current campaign structure fell apart in a lot of ways. Because it became a little harder to schedule with the group that I originally had. Some other things happened, and you just didn't run with that same group anymore. Gotta clean up that dirt. So, yeah, that was. Can't really talk about those plot beats too much because don't want to spoil those, but there were some major things that were going to happen. Yeah, well, I'm here. So that's all I got for you today.